Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing the Samhain Book Tag. I created this tag like a couple years ago and I did it again the second year and I haven't done it since. And I'm going to do my best to give different answers, but to be honest, I'm too lazy to rewatch my older videos, so if they're the same, they're the same. But if you want to check out the other videos, I've listed them down below. And if you'd like to participate in this book challenge or book tag, please do. You know what's really funny? I'm pulling up my videos so I can see what the old questions were. And I wore the exact same glasses in both of those videos, and I still have them. So I almost feel weird not changing out my glasses, but we're breaking tradition. All right, so let's jump into the questions. First question is the Celtic New Year, a book or book series currently on your TBR, one that you are super excited about. And that's easy. It's the newest Alan Rickman book that's come out that's based on his diaries. The title is Madly Deeply, The Diaries of Alan Rickman. And, oh man, he is one of my favorite actors, and I was devastated when I found out that he had passed. It's funny, I actually remember the day and how I found out. My husband and I, we were leaving to go to work together because at the time we were commuting together. And he pulls me aside as we're walking out the door. It's like, hey, I don't want you hearing about this from anyone else because I know it's going to upset you, but Alan Rickman passed today. And I thought he was joking. Like, I didn't believe him at first because Alan Rickman had kept his diagnosis like so close to his chest. He is one of the examples of what I want to be as a performer myself. Like, Severus Snape is a crummy character. He's a terrible person. But the choices that Alan Rickman made as an actor was just phenomenal. And any role that he had done, like, he gave his all in every performance. Everyone keeps talking about his voice, but his performance, I can only hope and imagine that I will have that level of talent one day. So I'm currently on the wait list for this book, and I'm super excited for it, and I can't wait until I get it. I mentioned this in my other video, but normally I film earlier in the day, and it's just super busy outside, so I do apologize in advance if you hear any background noise. I can't do anything about it, and I feel like it's only going to get worse since it is rush hour now. Question number 2, the day begins at sunset. Favorite books or genre you read at night? And I'm sure before I've said like something not scary. And at the time, I know a couple years ago, I was heavily into YA and fantasy. I still enjoy those books, but I feel like recently I'm super into romances. Like, I definitely want something wholesome to fall asleep to because I have trouble sleeping enough already. I don't want to read something scary and then try to fall asleep. I purposely don't even watch scary stuff before going to bed. My husband likes to watch kill count as we're in bed, and I always have to tell him, like, hey, we got to switch to something else because I'm not watching this anymore because I would like to fall asleep. So of course that's when we will switch to whose line is it anyways. So yeah, as of now, I'm really big into romances, so I would prefer to read that at night. Question number 3, honor your dead, a character whose death you aren't over, or if you'd rather not give any spoilers, favorite undead character. I know since I've done this last tag, I finally read The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman, and I thought the story was overall pretty interesting. I found it very cool that this community of ghosts in a cemetery banded together. It's like, no, we will take in this boy and protect him because it's obvious that somebody means him harm. And they name him Nobody. The kid's name is Nobody Owens, which an interesting name to give a kid. But long story short, my favorite characters for this question is Mr. and Mrs. Owens. They're the ones that specifically went, we will take this kid in, we will protect them. Even in death, this couple is like, no, we know what our duty is, at least what we feel is our duty. We're gonna take it. We're gonna take in this kid, especially since we've always wanted a child and couldn't have it in life. So I love this couple. I think they're just overall good people. Question number 4, food and drink, favorite party scene. I don't want to say I said this before, but I can't be sure because, like I said, I was too lazy to rewatch those videos. But I think this year I'm going to say the party scene at, I want to say, at kind of like that town hall party with Mr. Darcy and Lizzie. It wasn't at Mr. Darcy's house. It's when they first meet at the community center. And Lizzie overhears him say, you know, yeah, she's pretty, but, you know, barely tolerable, blah, 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 blah. And I know they did this for the movie, for Pride and Prejudice, but I don't know if they did it for the book. But we're talking about the movie version because it's just wonderfully done. And of course we're talking about the 2005 movie, by the way. How Lizzie just defends herself and sticks up for herself. When she like confronts Mr. Darcy, but not really. When he asks her, it's like, what would you say would make a really good companion? And it's like, oh, someone you could dance with, even if they're barely tolerable. Just the clapback. Of course, I'm not doing that scene justice, but Question number 5, traditional songs and dances, a book or book series you loved and you want to sing its praises. So I've read this recently. I talked about it in one of my recent vlogs. If Anything Happens, I Love You. It's a graphic novel based on the short film that won an Oscar, and I think it's on Netflix. I still need to watch it. The author's name, before I get too distracted, is Will McCormick, and the overall story is this little girl dies in a school shooting, and this is like the fallout of it, like her parents coming to terms with that loss. And man, did I cry reading this. Like, I got halfway and I immediately started choking up. I was surprised that this short little book invoked such a reaction from me, but it's amazingly done. I think what really helped it is the art style, especially the scene where she says, my parents talk about what they could have done differently, and the next panel is they show the shadows of the parents reaching out trying to stop her kid, and it's just, it's new. So if you have it at your library, if you want to get it, it is new. So you may find it in the new book section. Wow. Question number 6, Harvest, a series that grew on you. And for that, I'm going to say Lore Olympus. This is like something that was originally on Webtoon, and it's now traditionally published. I'm sure a lot of people that are currently watching this are familiar with Lore Olympus, but just in case, the author is Rachel Smythe, and it's a Greek gods retelling, specifically the Hades and Persephone retelling. And when I first read like panel 1, panel 2, or at least comic 2 rather, excuse me, I was like, oh wow, this is pretty good. Let's just continue checking out because it may not be for me. But yeah, let's continue. I am obsessed with it now. I finished reading volume 1 because I like found it at my library first, and I immediately, as soon as I finished it, even though I was like the first couple pages like, oh, this is kind of cool, let me read some more. As soon as I finished it, I put it down and I had to go on Webtoon, and I read until there weren't any more installments left. I spent hours catching up when I wasn't even interested before, and let me tell you, the hype is real. So if you haven't read it yet, oh, wow. I think a lot of the story aspects, because there are trigger warning moments, I think it's tastefully done. The art style is very cool too. Question number 7, Divination, make a guess about a series you haven't finished yet. And let's just continue talking about Lore Olympus, because I love that series so much. Where it is in the series, if you're not caught up yet, I know I'm a little behind. How far behind am I? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm currently 7 episodes behind. So if you are farther back than me, skip this question for a second. I'm going to put my hand up, peace sign, and I'll put it down once I stop talking about it. I generally think that Hades and Persephone aren't yet strong enough where they could potentially take over from Zeus, like overthrow Zeus if they wanted to. But they're just going to want a peaceful life so much that they're not going to bother with it. They're going to say, hey, we totally can overthrow you, but we won't. So here's a peace offering, and then things will hopefully be over. So that's what I'm guessing will eventually happen. But of course, I don't know what the author has in mind. All right, so my fingers are down. So if you muted me until this moment, all right, welcome back. Question number 8, mumming and guising, a character that aren't what they seem. And again, let's talk about the Graveyard Book. So we had Mr. and Mrs. Owens that were technically nobody's parents, but it was really Silas who was really the protector of Nobody Owens. And the book and the graphic novel heavily implied, because did I read the graphic novel or did I flip through it? I want to say, you know what, I lie. I don't think I read the graphic novel. I know I own it. It's somewhere. In the book, it's heavily implied that Silas is a vampire that's taking care of Nobody, that's really the protector for Nobody. Like, Silas goes out and gets food for him. He, like, goes and rescues him when needed. but it's never fully stated what he is or why he's in the cemetery. But it is implied that he's a vampire, so it definitely falls under he's not really what he seems to be. Question number 9, lit candles, guiding the spirits back to the spirit world, a book or book series that someone convinced you to read. And for that one, I think I'm going to pick a book that I read for a book club. I attempted to join this fantasy book club at my library, and I still want to go back. I grabbed this month's book, but I don't know if I'm going to read it. I read the first 2 books, and they just weren't necessarily my cup of tea. Like, I enjoyed them. I probably rated the first 2 like 3.5 stars-ish. I think that was the highest. So, good, but didn't love them necessarily. The last one that I read was The Bone Shard's Daughter. The author's name is Andrea Stewart, and this is the first book in the Drowning Empires series. The idea was cool, but like I said, it wasn't necessarily my cup of tea, and it was so long that even though I did rate it 3.5 stars, I see on Goodreads that I did, I doubt I'm going to continue reading it. My first gut reaction was like, oh, I think I'm intrigued enough, but now that I've sat on it for a while, I don't think I'm going to continue reading book 2. Like I said, the idea is cool. Like, the magic is, it's really dark. The Emperor takes bone shards from his subjects and uses that person's bone shard to create these creatures. And while these creatures are alive, they suck on the life power or life energy of that particular subject until that person dies. And these creatures are basically slaves. Like, you can control them and have them do good or bad things, mostly on the bad side. Or at least it seems like that is the intention. So the idea is cool, but the actual plot didn't necessarily grab me. Well, it's not enough to continue it. All right, and then the last question, Halloween, a film or TV adaptation of a book you loved. And for this last one, I think I want to talk about Miss Marvel, that's currently on Disney+. I've read the graphic novel series, at least the first handful of installments, and I like the story. I think the story is very cool, how this Muslim girl gets the same powers of Captain Marvel, and she becomes the newest Miss Marvel. I'm not familiar enough with Captain Marvel to know if she has the same powers or not. I want to say yes, especially since they have the same name. And they seem to have the same color scheme, red, white, and blue. I could be wrong about the color scheme because I am just thinking about it. But I like the idea of it. I think it's cool, and I think it's cool that Disney Plus picked it up. To be absolutely fair, I've only seen the first episode. I want to continue watching it. Like, I enjoyed it enough to where I want to continue watching it. I just haven't necessarily had the time to sit down and continue watching it. I also want to watch She-Hulk. I want to watch She-Hulk too. I think it's so cool that Disney Plus is starting to really incorporate like female-led superheroes. I think that is incredibly awesome. So that's it for you guys. That's all I have for you today. I'm really glad to be back to try to continue doing booktube videos, and especially go back to a tag that I created. I hope that if you're watching this that you want to do the tag, please do so. I would love to see it. And as always, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I guess it's ta-ta for now. Bye guys.